Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this one's dedicated to. My name is Jennifer Ziegler, and this episode is a bit of a departure from what we usually do. Normally, we have on favorite beloved authors to talk about the dedications in their books, and that's not what's different this time. But after over 50 episodes, we have realized that we have never talked about our own dedications. So instead of sitting next to me, my co-host, my husband, author Chris Barton, is going to be in the hot seat today to talk about a dedication in his book. So, Chris, welcome, Chris. Welcome to the show. Do
Thank
you
you for
want
having me on the show.
to? It's a pleasure. Longtime fan, longtime fan. Do you want to talk about, first of all, which book you chose, and then
I,
you like to read the dedication aloud?
yes, I chose How to Make a Book About My Dog, which I wrote and was illustrated by Sarah Horn. And my dedication reads, for Karen Blumenthal, her excellent books, and her excellent dog, Franklin. So Karen was a friend and an inspiration. She was a terrific author of nonfiction for young readers, typically young readers a little bit older than the young readers that I make nonfiction for. There were lots of, she wrote great books, and she was also such a good person. And you and I each, when we would be in Dallas for various events, we each had the opportunity to spend a night at the home of that Karen shared with her husband Scott McCartney and their dog Franklin.
Mhm.
So it's great having a dog away from home when you're off in another city doing author stuff. You get to not only see great people but occasionally a great dog.
So, Chris, when did you know that you were going to dedicate How to Make a Book About My Dog to Karen and to Franklin?
I knew twice actually. I had the same idea two times. So um, this book came out in October of 2021. In May of 2020, Karen died suddenly. The day after she died, I made a note that I wanted to dedicate How to Make a Book About My Dog to her. But that was, nearly a year and a half before the book came out. And then I kind of forgot about the dedication because at that point I was still working on revising the text and getting ready for the art to be made. And then in January 2021, I had basically the same idea again. Oh, I know who I could dedicate this book to, Karen Blumenthal. And I was kind of amused to find a note from, the better part of a year earlier saying that I was going to dedicate this book to Karen Blumenthal. So I figured it out twice, several months apart.
Yeah. Now, how did you tell Karen's family about the dedication?
So a few months before the book was published, it was late June of 2021. I knew that I was going to have some opportunities to talk about this book in various settings. I had school visits coming up, and I wanted to make sure that Scott knew before. I want to make sure Scott knew from me before he heard it from anyone else. So I emailed him in June, like June of 2021, sent him a PDF of the page from the book because I didn't actually have the hard copy of the book yet, but I sent him a page of the book via email and just said, I just wanted to share this with you. And then in September of that year, once the hard copies of the book finally arrived, I sent copies to Scott and to Scott and Karen's two daughters.
What can you tell people about Karen that maybe those who only know of her through her books may not know?
Well, a big thing to know about Karen Blumenthal is how much she loved the Dallas Public Library. And a week or two after I sent those books to Scott and his daughters, you and I, of course, went to Dallas for the reopening of the Forest Green Library, the smallest branch of the Dallas Public Library system. Karen had worked tirelessly to get more funding for that, to get an expansion going for that. She unfortunately did not live to see that expansion completed, but it was completed. And in September of 2021, you and I were among the folks who were there for the opening of or the reopening of that library.
I'm so glad that you dedicated this book to Karen and to Franklin, who was
And to
also
Franklin and to her books, because I still want people to discover Karen Blumenthal's books, because there's a lot to learn from those books. They are fascinating, and they're extremely well written, and they're extremely well researched.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, thank you for asking me those questions.
Considering the book is called How to Make a Book About My Dog, I imagine a lot of people just expect that you dedicated it to Ernie, who is featured in the book.
Our actual dog, who is featured on the cover. At a school visit this week, a kid pointed out that Ernie appears 40 times in How to Make a Book About My Dog. I had never counted it before, so leave it to a kid to figure that out. And that would be a reasonable question. But I had already dedicated a book to Ernie. I had dedicated my second Mighty Truck early reader, Mighty Truck, the traffic tie-up, to Ernie. I don't know that I knew that How to Make a Book About My Dog was going to come along. So this book came out in 2018, and I dedicated this book for Ernie, who sometimes lets me write. And we have spoken with people before who have double dipped, who have dedicated a book to someone for a second or even third, fourth, fifth time. So there's nothing wrong with double dipping, but there have been a lot of people that I've wanted to get to before I get back to Ernie, and Karen Blumenthal and Franklin were two of those people slash dogs slash mammals. I have not reached the point where I'm just saying, well, I'll dedicate this book to so and so because I haven't dedicated a book to them, and here's a new book. I still, especially since we started doing the show, I've tried to be real thoughtful and real careful about who I dedicate books to, and make sure there's a good fit and a good story, because you never know who's going to ask you, why did you dedicate this book to this person?
That is true.